Right, I think I'm ready. Are you guys ready? Cool. Let's rock and roll.
Hey, it's Friday, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. In this week's episode, I chat to Thomas, who is the owner of Sabie Valley Riding Academy, as well as the host of the Annual Sabie GS Challenge. We chatted about how everything started. We chatted about the tours that they organize, what tours that they had planned for this year, what they're planning post-lockdown, as well as we chat about the Series II Landy that he is currently restoring. Here's this week's episode. That's fine. The light's good there.
Cool.
You look like you're in the dark, but you're not really. If you know what I mean.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But we understand that that you got some power problems there. Does the power go often? Does it go out often in Sabie?
Actually, time since lockdown, but it seems like it's a single phase type thing.
Okay.
So I don't know what actually some transformer in town.
Yeah.
So let's hope they get out there and fix it still tonight. Otherwise, tomorrow. It's also not the end of the world. It should be a night without power, eh?
Yeah. But I mean, how long have you been living in Sabie?
We've been in Sabie for 2 years now, but I've grown up in this area. So we've always lived between Sabie and Hazyview. Been there she's still from 2000, and then we lived on a farm further down. Yeah, so I've been up and down the valley between Sabie and Hazyview for most of our lives.
Okay.
But we've made Sabie our last little, place to settle now for our plans that we're putting out at this stage.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, you're pretty used to the sort of like what it's like to live out in the sticks there, if you want to call it that. I mean, in terms of amenities and
we've always been on a farm,
yeah.
So on the farm you're a bit more responsible for your own water supply and for all, and that's actually quite cool because if the pump's broken, it's just yourself that you got to blame.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you're now moving into a town within a municipality, things have slightly changed, and you have to rely on others. But I'm not criticizing the guys in Sabie. Are trying really hard to keep us in water and electricity, and so there's a good crowd.
Yeah, sure.
Doing their thing.
That's good to hear. Yeah, because I mean, it's quite ironic, us in the living in the suburbs in Johannesburg, and we're starting to have to worry about creating our own plans, like having water tanks and generators and that kind of stuff. So it's quite ironic that in the big city you still have to worry about those kind of things.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's a sign of the time. Hey, that's how the world is going.
Yeah, well, talk about.
It's a good.
Yeah, carry on.
Makes us think about where we are and what our bit of responsibility in life is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was just, under the current circumstances, it's a bit of a pity because my grand plan was to do the podcast face to face, and we didn't have time the last time I was down there on the Sabie on the bubble run, but for obvious reasons, everyone is in a party mood and everyone wanted to have we had a bit of a hectic day because we had that incident on the way. But yeah, and then my plan was to come, it was a good excuse to come down to Sabie again on the bike and then come and do a podcast face to face. But obviously the lockdowns, thrown our plans out the window.
Yeah, but that event seemed like a lot of fun, and we definitely want to be more part of that next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then obviously we'd love to have you to come and show you what the academy looks like and come and show off a bit the stuff we've done in the last couple of years, or the last year basically, to set ourselves up here in Sabie.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can talk about that now, but what I wanted to tell you was that I'm actually very fond of that area, like the whole Eastern Transvaal, because when I grew up in Witbank, and my parents were into, had a caravan, so we were into caravanning and all that kind of thing. We used to come to Mary Pebbles quite often, as well as the Kruger National Park and all that kind of stuff. So that sort of area is like, I've got a bit of a soft spot for it. And I mean, obviously, when the roads are in good condition and all that kind of stuff, I'm talking about the tar roads now, it's just awesome to ride around there. And as a adventure motorcyclist, I'd love to come and extend that to, doing some of the dirt stuff there as well. So definitely I need to make a plan to come to the academy.
Yeah, we've got so many available dirt roads that it's actually quite sad that people don't know which roads they can go and ride on and which not. So obviously when they come and visit me, I'm going to give them these tips and tell them, go and do this, go and do that.
Sure.
I mean, obviously also we need to respect the forestry guys and the problems that they have in their day-to-day lives. You know, with them exporting timber and that, if you have an accident on their property, that affects their export rating and all of that.
Oh, it does.
So that's why they are so cautious, or so, maybe use the word negative here, of having motorcyclists in the forest. But we've got a very great relationship with the guys from York Timbers and also from Safcol Komati Land.
Okay.
And, you know, things are getting better and better because we're showing them that we are a communication tool between the motorcyclists and them. I mean,
Yes.
and they've now started learning, talk to us when they've got issues. And I must say the guys have been brilliant, the motorcycling guys. In our area especially, they know now, go and ride here, go and ride there. The guys will rather come to me and say, listen, we want to go for a ride, where can we go? I mean,
Sure.
And we don't charge for that service. It's just making the guys enjoy our area and our little town. And that's what it's obviously all about.
Yeah, because, I mean, I chatted to some guys in Canada. They're up in Montreal. They've actually got a YouTube channel called Awesome Players. I started chatting to them, back in 2011, round about there. And, you know, I followed their sort of videos that they create of their riding around there. And they use the ATV tracks. Obviously they can only ride during summer. You know, I think they got to park their bikes for 7 months of the year. But I was chatting to the guy, and he was telling me that so the ATV club maintain the tracks and all that kind of stuff, and then they've got relationships with the forestry people there that like people pay a subscription to belong to the club. And then you've got a tag or something that you carry, you know, that you put on your bike and all that kind of stuff. And so the ATV club maintains they grade the tracks and all that kind of stuff after the snow season. And then these adventure motorcyclists belong to that ATV club. And then, you know, those people then have the relationship. And I've always wondered if there was a similar kind of setup here in South Africa.
Yeah, I think our signal's gone.
Is the signal gone? We yesterday we left off. We were talking about your relationship with the forestry guys in terms of the guys being able to use some of the roads or the trails.
Yes.
Yeah. So, how did you establish that relationship? Did you?
You know what I did when I moved to Sabie? We obviously sold the farm, so we had a nice big training area there, and then I needed to find a new training area.
Okay.
And said to my mates in Sabie, I'm going to go and talk to York Timbers. And they said to me, oh, good luck. It's not going to happen. So I just scheduled a meeting with the big boss, pitched him the whole idea that we can be good for them and they can be good for us and we can be good for the town of Sabie. And York is quite a social, responsible company. So what's good for Sabie is good for them. And I think they like the idea, like I mentioned, that we have like a little contact that they can talk to someone if they feel things aren't going well.
Yeah, sure.
And then I started a training area, and we've been doing a training now for a year and a bit on their property, and it's going very well. And so we're building relationships, and we're starting to use more and more of their facilities. And they're being very good to us, so that's cool.
Okay, that's great. So the Sabie Valley Riding Academy that you've got, I mean, when did that start?
We started 12 years ago.
Okay.
I went to Germany in 2008, I think it was, to do my instructor's course. So we've been doing that for the last 10 years on a part-time basis.
Okay.
12, okay, sorry. So part-time basis, and then we, now I've gone full-time into motorcycle training, motorcycle repairs, tires, tours, that type of stuff. So it's a new learning curve for us. Sure. And obviously now with all the changes in the air, it's quite challenging, but we just reinvent ourselves and run with it.
Absolutely. And the farm that you had, what sort of farming were you doing?
It was a farm, but it was mainly indigenous bush. There were some peanuts on it. And then we had the windmill wine shop and cottages.
Oh, right.
So we had a restaurant, we had lunches, we had accommodation. We did that trade for 30 years.
Wow.
And then we decided 2 years ago, now it's time to get out of the hospitality game. It's a fun game when you're in it, but it also gets a bit tedious.
I'm sure, yeah. And you said what made you go back in 2008 to go and do your instructor's training? Years
ago, I bought my first GS. We did a multiple things. We rented out quads, and then I said to Jackie, my wife, let's try renting out some bikes. So we bought two 650 BMWs. We rented them out, but it wasn't a major hit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was too early days. And then I bought myself, I saw when the 1150 GS Adventure came out, the one with that massive tank. I mean, I saw it and I was just like smitten. I had to have one.
Yeah.
And then come sell those two bikes and buy that for yourself.
Yeah.
And then I met a guy called Rupert Colwick he used to be at Auto Alpina those days. And then also the guys like Denver Biggs. And then I said to him, come on, we've got a lovely farm, bring some guys for riding. And then I started an event called the Annual Sabie GS Challenge. And that was in 2004 already.
Okay.
And then a couple of years after that, so that's how I built up relationships with the guys from the dealerships and that. And then I said to BMW, I actually mailed them and said, listen, I want to do a training facility. And they said to me at that stage, they don't need more. They have got a good enough footprint. Yeah, and then a couple of years later, I got contacted by them again and said, are you still keen? And I said, yes, definitely I am. Yeah, and that's how it all came to that I started doing training. We first did an instructor's course in South Africa, and then they gave us the option if we wanted to go to Europe and go and train there.
Okay, well, that's interesting, yeah. So, so when I bought my GS, which is back in 2013, end of 2013, beginning of 2014, I'd never ridden adventure bikes before. I'd ridden on the road before. And I decided that I wanted to do this trip down to Cape Town. And along the way, so I drove back to Cape Town, and I wanted to do some dirt on the way, but I'd never done dirt before. So I didn't do any training, but I bought a book called Dirt Busters, written by Dion Meyer, and who was the other guy that collaborated with him now? Was it Jan de Tooy?
Yeah, Jan was part of that. Yeah, I read that years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was my first introduction into adventure motorcycle riding. And I can remember I did one of the roads, or one of the routes that he had suggested, which was Carletondsdorp to Van Wyksdorp.
Okay, yes, over the Rooiberg.
Yeah,
pass.
exactly. I did Rooiberg, yeah.
Yes.
So that was quite an interesting experience because, I mean, I'd never really done it before, and I didn't have like, like Nobblies or whatever. I just had like Turrents EXPs or whatever they were. I would imagine they were dual sport tires, but it's probably the ratio was probably more towards Star than anything else. But it was after that I decided I think it's very important that I go and do some training. So
we see different types of riders. Yeah. Some guys are just naturals; they get on and they do it, and they have no issues. And others are more the type that want to do the training. I mean, they want to go step by step and ask the questions and find out why are they doing certain things.
Yes.
So yeah, you get both types. I mean, and it's always fun at the training to identify the types of guys and what are they going to be the challenges for the day. But what's quite fun, everybody always walks away feeling, even the guy that thought he's not going to learn anything, they always learn tons. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. And I suppose it's very much about confidence as well. Because what I find is when I get back onto dirt now after riding tar for a while, the first say 20 minutes I'm a little bit apprehensive, trying to get my mind around not using the front brakes as much and that kind of thing, and remember that you got your ABS turned off, and then once you're in it, like when we did I did the Swazi trip with Joe and the Bonafide people.
Yes.
And I hadn't done dirt for a while. And the first couple of Ks, I was like, a little bit. But the second day, I was in the groove.
Yes.
But anyway, it's good fun. It's good, and I think that's the thing is once you enjoy it and you're not scared and you've got the confidence, you actually enjoy riding adventure.
We say to the guys, the bike can do it as long as we are relaxed and give the bike the space to operate. I mean, if you hang on to the handlebars with a death's grip, the bike's not going to do what you want it to do. I mean, it's also going to be nervous. I mean, so the more relaxed you are, and go back to the little fundamental rules that we always talk about, look far ahead, have your weight in the right posture in the corners, things are going to be good. I mean, you're going to have fun.
Yeah, yeah. So you said that Sabie GS Challenge that you started that back in 2004, right? So that's what going. Have you been doing it every year since then?
Yeah, this would have been our 16th one that we were going to host, and then just before lockdown, we had to pull the plug on that one, and it was a stuff up of note, as you can imagine. Yeah. But we are looking for another date, like everybody else is, and we're hoping that we can get it going in September. We'll see how things.
Yeah.
You can't predict more than a month ahead at this stage what's going to happen.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. And so,
that's an amazing.
So what actually happens at the GS Challenge? Is it very similar to like a qualifying event for the GS Trophy, or what's it like?
It is. Last year, our GS Challenge was one of the qualifying events for the GS Trophy, but it's not always. Remember, they only have it every second year.
Yes.
So for us, I would say the event is all about sharing the joy of riding routes that you would never have access to. And then also, secondly, sharing your love and passion for the BMW, because this is the one event that we say you have to own a BMW to come and do. I mean, we all our other trainings, everything's open to multi-brands.
Okay.
So at the GS Challenge, and then we obviously have that little bit of competitive edge. And there's a lot of those type of riders that, want to compete. They want to walk away with the trophies at the end of the day and the nice prizes. So the whole weekend you get scored. A little dawn ride. You get a GPS track log that we check to see that you've achieved it. We give little riding challenges, some technical stuff. And then also we hand out a black route. So we do a green route, a red route, and a black route. We do a black route finisher's cap. Okay, and we check the guy's GPS track log to see if he's completed all the routes. And the routes are tough. I mean, you need 2 riders at least on a route to get the bikes over some of the obstacles and over some of the tree stumps and stuff like that. So, and you can't believe how people fight for that black route cap. I mean, it's obviously a coveted possession.
Yes.
Yeah, and then obviously everybody has a beer afterwards, a lot of discussion, lots of fun. And you know what, the clientele, it's always funny. When we started the event, it was mainly camping, and we'd have a few hotel rooms. And I said to Jackie, everybody's now 20 years older. So we've now had it for the last 2 years at Misty Mountain on the Long John Pass, and it's such a lovely venue that.
Okay.
And lovely rooms, lovely food. So it's like a real jolly weekend with your mates and have good food, everybody's not drinking beer anymore. They're all into red wine now. Everybody's gotten older and more sensible. But the guys are still riding as hard as what they ever did. And it's interesting how years ago it used to be mainly green route riders with 1 or 2 red or blacks. Now it's 70% black route riders with 1 or 2 green. The guys are really coming out to that event to come and prove their riding skills.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to, when I come, I'm going to have to start with a green route. I have to build up my confidence.
Everybody starts with a green route. But we also say to the guy, if you're having a good day on day 1, then change over to the red route on day 2. If that's the way you and then a lot of people say, okay, after day 1, green was quite tough for them. Then I give them a shortened, easier green for the next day, if that's how things go.
Yeah.
But we go to amazing waterfalls and sites on York properties that you'll never get access to. So that is that opportunity to really explore the Sabie and what the Sabie region has in advanced off-road riding. There's such good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But you said you've only been doing it at Misty Mountains, for the last 2 years. Where were you doing it before that?
Yes. So before we did it at our place, we had a couple of events there. We were down at the river. Yeah, so it was always mainly on our own property, but that we've sold now to get out of that game. So the first one, we had a campsite down at the river. We carted everything down, marquee, and we had band playing, and it was huge fun, as you can imagine.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, was it your place that was affected by that bad storm that got washed out?
No, that was Jan.
Was that Jan?
At Country Tracks.
Yeah,
that was
that was
terrible.
Tracks, yeah,
but he's rebuilt beautifully. He's done such a lot of effort. To make that place look amazing again.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So how many official training venues are there around the country?
Okay, so obviously it's the official training partners is myself and Country Tracks, and then there's also a lady called Maura Campbell. She's got open. She very much aims at, I wouldn't say novice riders, but getting people into the riding that have never thought about it. So ladies and guys, and she's got very nice little techniques of doing that. Country Tracks has got a footprint where they have training facilities in each province in the country, and then we are based mainly in Sabie, but then we also train at Tierpoort, and that is in the Pretoria side.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's interesting. And so you say what was the first motorcycle that you bought? Was it the 650, or were you riding bikes before that?
I started off, I convinced my sister when I was 9 years old that we need to own a motorbike. And she was a sucker because she never got to ride it. She was always upset with me. And it was a Honda CT 110.
Okay.
You know what that is?
No? You're going to tell me, aren't you?
It's like a postie bike. Like it's got a step-through frame, but it had knobbly tires on. So it's a real farm bike
Oh,
with
wow.
little carriers on the front and the back. And it even had a low range that you could change over on the gearbox to go to low range.
Wow.
Yeah. So go and Google it. They're fun bikes.
Oh,
I see Honda is actually
do it.
bringing them out again. They're talking about releasing them again. And I would love to buy one. You always hanker after your first bike. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then it
absolutely.
actually went into what was my next bike? My neighbor had a PE 175, a Suzuki, that he let me ride. I used to work for him on the farm. Yeah. And then I bought myself an IT 200, did the enduro scene with that. And then I got into the WRs, the Yamahas. Yeah, and then didn't ride for a long time. But when I was at school and I was 16 years old, I bought myself a Katana 1100.
Yo.
And that was quite cool. And remember, I lived on the Sabie Valley Road.
Mm-hmm.
So I did the 22 every morning to school and the 22 in the afternoon home.
Yeah, that's terrible.
That was really cool. Yeah.
So you know that road very well now.
I know that road. Yeah, so Sunday mornings we can have tons of fun on the 22.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So your experience was riding dirt and off road long before you got into the adventure riding, or the BMW adventure riding.
I'm losing you a bit. Can you still hear me? I'm losing you a bit on the signal there.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. You're saying about dirt and off-road?
Yeah, I was just saying, so you had obviously growing up in the area that you did and being on the farm and all that kind of stuff. So you were quite comfortable riding on dirt and doing enduro and all that. Yeah. So
and
it was like a natural progression to get into sort of adventure riding later.
There is a lot of stuff you got to learn on the adventure bikes because things are quite different, from the plastics or what we call plastics up to the adventure bike. So there are a lot of principles that change. And, we've obviously done a lot of training and being taught by BMW, but there's also a lot of stuff that you figure out for yourself, by a lot of reading and experimenting and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, like, if someone was getting into adventure motorcycling now, let's say they've never done it before, what would you recommend? How would you recommend they start? What bike to buy? And
I still rate the old BMW F650 GS. They were 2003, I think, upwards till about 2010. You pick them up now for between 25 and 35,000. You buy an old one, they're bulletproof. You ride it for the first 6 months. You drop it as often as you want to. And then once you've done that, then you'd make the decision, which bike am I going to buy? Because a lot of people do that. They buy, or I've seen it also with the husbands, they buy their wives a really lovely, brand new 750, and she's terrified to damage the bike.
Yeah.
And it puts so much pressure on the whole learning process and getting used to riding that you often see those ladies never end up riding their bike. They're too scared to ride it properly. So I would say never go the whole route. Buy an old bike, start riding with that, and then you quickly learn who your riding buddies, if they're all on 1200 GSs or if they're all on KTMs, then follow suit and ride what they're riding, because that's what the buddyship is about.
Yeah, sure.
And, that's how you get into it. And obviously, a lot of people just train themselves and there's no issue with that. A lot of people cope with that. But if you can, do at least 1 or 2 little courses with someone just to get some nice basics in. And that opens the world of adventure biking so quickly then for you, instead of having to make all these mistakes. And another rookie mistake we see, people always buy, I wouldn't say cheap stuff, but they don't buy the quality kit.
Yes.
Helmet, glove, boots. And invariably a year later you replace the stuff in any case, and then you buy the quality.
Yeah.
And understand why. Everybody's got to justify buying the bike and paying a whole lot of money for expensive kit.
Yeah.
But I can give someone a tip, even if it's used, just try and guide quality stuff and try and buy it used then if costing is an issue.
Yeah. And look, the quality stuff does last. I've had mine, I bought my GS suit secondhand, and I've probably had it now 7 years, and it's still going strong, So
yeah, definitely. I wear mine day in, day out. Okay, I've got 2 suits, but also they're a couple of years old and they're still strong.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So over the years, have you seen a lot more women starting to ride adventure motorcycles?
Yeah. Definitely. And in the past, it was always, you would see a girl riding with a bunch of guys, or a wife or girlfriend or whatever. Now you actually see girls going out on a Lesotho weekend and girls doing Swaziland trips as a group of girls going.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite cool. I think that, not that there were any, that girls have to ride with guys or any preconceived ideas, but I think it's cool to see it happening now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And girls are great. The girls are really good. We see it at the GS Trophy events, the skills that the girls are showing now. And they're all on 1200s. There's no stuffing around on smaller bikes.
Yeah. I can remember I did I think after Morag had been to the GS Trophy, I think
Yes.
the one club ride that I did with the West Rand Club, John Harris was there and Morag was there, and I was riding with him. And geez, I couldn't even keep up with them. I mean, like within the first kilometer, like they've disappeared,
Yes. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, that's cool. And, I don't know if you've met Linda Stein-Boddington. She was one of the trophy girls that went to Malaysia. She's tiny, man. She's one of the smallest people around.
Yeah.
And we did, for our Blackroot Recce earlier in the year, we did a Recce ride. And we have a couple of marshals that always help us, and she came and assisted. And it was one of those weekends where it just rained for 3 days nonstop. And we manhandled those bikes, and she was there with us the whole time, and it was so cool. It was like really nice to see.
Yeah, I must admit, it is very nice to see the women coming through as well, because, I mean, it's nice to, because I've got 2 daughters, so I'm a little bit biased. I want them to learn how to ride motorcycles, and I want them to enjoy, doing a nice road trip as well as enjoying some dirt as well, because I think that's when you start to see scenery that you normally wouldn't see, traveling down the main track or whatever. Yeah.
And I think also that whole, I've got lots of mates and the younger kids are on bikes already, and I help them train the kids. It helps learning the perception of speed and distance judging and control. And, it's such a learning, it's such a skill you're learning, how to, and you always see guys that grow up on bikes make much better car drivers at a later age.
Yeah.
They learn how to control panic situations and all that much better.
Absolutely, yeah, like living in Johannesburg, you got to drive defensively and you got to ride even more defensively.
Yeah.
And I often say that I've got to the point now where I can actually read a guy's driving a car. I can read his body language, because I can just see when the guy's going to be changing lanes without using his indicator.
Yeah, definitely. I always say to my students, sadly, you have to take responsibility for everybody around you.
Absolutely.
Don't rely that anybody is going to make the right decision for you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, listen, and it's so funny you talk about that, because I commute to work on my bike. So when I'm going to the office, or when I was going to the office, so I ride quite a lot in traffic. But I think it was the last day, it was the day of the lockdown here in Johannesburg, that I had to go drop off something for my daughters at their mom's place. And on the way back, I almost got taken out by 3 cars in 20 minutes.
Sure.
And I mean, that normally doesn't happen, that frequently.
Yes.
And it's just because, obviously, people with this whole lockdown thing were like a little bit, put out by this whole thing. And they're doing U-turns in the middle of the road without even signaling and all that kind of stuff. And fortunately, because you can read the situation, that you're aware of it, you can avoid those kind of situations. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Definitely. Hey. Yeah, I even saw in Sabie, people driving like maniacs that last day. I think too much to do and too little time to get it all done.
So what's it like in Sabie at the moment with the lockdown? Is it quiet, or people going about their business? Or
no, people are going about their business. Remember, there's a lot of it's forestry, so those guys are all up and running. Obviously, the restaurants and the tourism is not here, so that side is quiet. So it feels like a weekday. Yeah. I wouldn't say a normal weekday, but it feels like a quiet weekday. Yeah.
But obviously on the weekends, it's not getting busy like it normally would.
No.
Yeah.
No, we're not seeing. Interesting enough, this weekend we saw a lot of guys out riding. People obviously now decided they are going to just go and ride. Yeah. And I think for them, everybody's had enough of sitting at home and not riding bike.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we saw a lot of that. Yeah, but we've gone back into the workshop now to start finishing off some bikes we've got there to work on, and I've got 1 or 2 accident claim bikes that I'm busy working on, so at least I've got those things coming in, and that's quite nice. Yeah, and then we've got a nice little project. I've got a R1200S
Okay.
that bought, and I've always had it in the back of the garage there, trying to do some plan with it. And now we come up with a nice little campaign where we're gonna build it up, and then we're gonna raffle it towards the end of the year.
Oh, right. Okay, that's cool. And what are you going to do
Yeah,
with it?
so
You're
we'll do
gonna, or can't you say what you're going to do with it yet? Is it secret?
We are going to ask people to tell us what to do.
Oh, right.
Okay, so come up maybe with 3 ideas. Maybe one Battle of the Twin look, a bots type look.
Yeah.
Okay? Maybe the other one would be absolutely retro or totally original. And then maybe third, a little bit more modern colors, modern paint job. And then we'll see how that. So we'll do some little campaigns on Facebook, and then people will be able to go through to our website and buy a raffle ticket there. But we'll launch the whole thing soon enough.
Oh, that sounds cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
and bring some of our partners on board as well that will assist us with parts and all the stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So, I mean, when I was up there for the bubble run, I heard you were saying that you were, you were doing tires and all that kind of stuff, but you've also got a workshop and working on bikes.
Yeah, so we work mainly on the BMWs. In the area there's a lot of out of warranty bikes that the guys just want service and stuff like that. And so we do quite a bit of that and a lot of tires. There's always someone looking for a tire in this area.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's going on.
I can't think of anything worse than getting out there, ready to enjoy your weekend, and you cut the sidewall of your tire and you can't get a tire. Because the one time that I came to Sabie in my road car, I had a pothole on the way to Graskop. And I popped the side of the sidewall of the had low profiles on it. But obviously I couldn't get one of those low profiles in Sabie.
Yes. No.
Should.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a pain
So
in the butt.
that's always the issue, and especially when the guys come with those really Lani cars, some of those top of the range things, and tires for that's always a problem.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, and yourself, how many bikes have you got?
Sure, that's a question, let me count. I think it's about 9 or 10, something like that.
What have you got?
I've got an HP2.
Okay.
I've got an R80 GS. I've got my training bike is a 1250 that I've just bought last year. So I'm really pleased with that.
Yeah.
I've got a lovely old Yamaha AG175. It's a 1974 model.
Okay.
Yeah. Then what else is all in the garage? There's a 450, a BMW 450.
All right.
There's a S1000R. So you see, it's all a BMW theme running here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shows you how strong I've got BMW in my blood. Hey. There's a trophy that we use to train people on and rent out and stuff as well.
Okay.
That was my previous training bike. And then, we've got a 310 that we use for novice training.
BMW.
So those are like business bikes. A BMW 310.
Okay.
And then Jackie rides a GS Urban.
Oh, nice.
Really cool bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's also a 45, R45, 1978 model.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so I like the old vintage stuff as well. We did the DGR last year with the 45 and R80.
And where did you do the DGR?
We did in Joburg.
I did in Joburg, yeah. So my story with the DGR last year was that I went down to Cape Town to do the DGR there with a friend of mine, and it rained.
Okay.
And it rained. So I didn't do the GGR last year.
Yes.
And the year before that, I had a problem with my BM because I've got a R80, and it's a 78 model, or 77. And I had a problem with that, so I didn't make the DGR the year before. So I'm feeling a little bit left out with the DGR.
Yes, you're going to have to. Hopefully we still have it this year.
Yeah.
Looking forward to if we do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, geez, all these trips that I was thinking of doing this year have all gone out the window, unfortunately.
Yeah, same with us.
Yeah.
We had a lovely trip planned to take a whole lot of people to Motora Days in Munich and Alps riding and Garda Lake in Italy. So that, and we paid deposits and everything, but we'll just postpone that over to next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we've got some other amazing trips. We've got a Wild Coast trip that we recceed in December, and we do all the coastal roads along the coast, and we stay at all those old, lovely family hotels.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really an amazing experience.
Was that the one?
Take a group of
was that the
people
one that you left for the day after we arrived for the bubble run?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That was amazing. We had such a good time.
Yeah, it looked good.
And Yeah, that was really nice. Yeah, and then we also were supposed to run our Ben 10 trip. You've heard of the Ben 10,
No,
obviously.
no.
The Ben 10 is the 10 most notorious mountain passes in the Eastern Cape.
All right.
So it's all around the village of roads.
Okay.
And it's ongelukspass. And there's a website called mountainpasses.co.za, I think,
Yes.
as far as I can remember. And then you go and take a photo of each of their plaques. They put up massive plaques. They're very clever to promote this. So we take our clients on this, and you go and get a photo of, see if you can get a photo of yourself at each one of these plaques, and then you post it, and then you get listed on the Wall of Fame on the website.
Oh, that's
And
clever.
in lovely places, and yeah. So if you get a chance, go and look at the sites and go and look at Ben 10.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Obviously, the highest pass there is called a pass called Ben McDewey, and it's a killer. It's a tough little pass. It's got an ugly attitude about it.
Oh, really?
When we did it last year, it was snow and ice and everything on it, and I got all my guys up, but it was a challenge.
Oh, was it? Oh, jeez. Yeah. So what tours? I mean, have you got standard tours that you do every year?
Yeah, we do. Like Swaziland always happens towards the end of the year, November. Swaziland is one of those lovely, meandering, couple-friendly, nice hotels, good food, good conversation at night, that type of a tour, but dirt road, you know, with some tar road sections. And we've done Swaziland for years now, so we know it like the back of our hands. So that's really cool. We do that for a weekend. We do Orobaragwanov tour. I don't know if you've heard of Orobaragwanov Pass. That's Lechalametsi Game Reserve, so that's the northern side of the country, heading towards the Tsenin area. And then we do all that Sarala, Volkberg. There's amazing riding there. So but again, that's an advanced riding weekend. So we have a couple of advanced ones and a couple of easy ones. And then we also do a very nice Tonteldoors weekend where we actually go from Pretoria all the way on dirt roads, incorporating some really stunning mountain passes and rocky climbs and stuff to the little village of Tonteldoors. Stay there for the weekend and then come back. But we've got some great stuff planned for this year, but obviously that stuff's all going to have to move over to next year. We've a little village of Kleinpella, that's in the northern Cape. We've also got a tour around that area that we got lined up. Yeah, so we do really good stuff.
Yeah, I'm getting like FOMO now at the moment.
Yes, I know we're lucky with what we do. I mean, it's amazing that we can do these tours and take friends with us, because most of our clients have now become friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's what happens with these kind of tours, is that people keep on coming back. If you start a new tour, then they come out, they'll come on the new tour, and pretty much like Joe and the Bonafide guys. I mean, I've actually been very impressed with the trips that I've been on with them, the way that they've organized them, the kind of people that are on those trips. It makes it so enjoyable. It's like such a fun weekend. And that's why I'm so bleak this year with what's happened now, is that because I was going to try and make all of their trips, and not making one of them at the moment, unfortunately.
Well, let's hope that the bubble run happens in December. There is a small chance it might just happen.
Yeah. I'm supposed to go down to Cape Town, so I'm going to have to shift my calendar around so I can make it. Yeah. I'll just go to Cape Town later.
I think there's going to be a mad calendar scramble towards the end of this year.
Can you imagine it? Yeah, can you imagine? Yeah. So tell me about, in lockdown, you've been working on your Landy there.
Yes.
Tell us the story about the Landy.
So the Landy's been in the family for the last 40 years, I would imagine. Okay. And when I was a kid, I obviously abused it and 4x4'd with it. I entered 4x4 competitions. And then 20 years ago, I looked at it and said, shame, this vehicle needs love. I mean, it's buggered. So I stripped it down and sent parts away. And you know how all these best plans get waylaid. And the chassis stood in the corner of my workshop for the last 20 years nearly. Then before we moved to Sabie, I put a bit of effort and time in, and I put the motor back in the chassis and redid the brakes and all the seals in the gearbox. And the motor I went over and checked it. That's all good, new brake lines. Yeah, and then we moved. And obviously coming to Sabie, the real work started of building the academy building. And, we built it all ourselves out of shipping containers. And then I bought the paint. And in December, I spent 2 weeks priming the panels and getting stuff like that ready. And then Jackie said to me, well, lockdown, perfect time, start climbing into your land.
Exactly, yeah.
And I was lucky. I had to buy some thinners, I had to buy some sandpaper, I had to buy a few things before. But throughout the years, I've kept on looking around for stuff that I know I would need, and I had a box full of stuff, and I was like a kid in a candy shop packing that box and saying, "Oh, look at this, and look what I found here," and things I couldn't find, like I needed a bottom door hinge for the rear door, and I got the welder out and the drill and the grinder, and I just started building the hinge. I mean, if you can't get it during lockdown, you make it yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
I had to do all the wiring. Struggled with some brake lines that I couldn't get, but then I had a friend in town with a hydraulic shop, and he helped me slightly illegally, but so what? I mean, and yeah, a couple of other guys. And then when Midas finally opened up, we could get the large little odds and sods, like my coil went, so I could get that, and a few other things.
Yeah,
it was good.
That's cool. It's been looking good. I mean, you've been watching this unfold on Instagram. It's been pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, no, it has. And, interesting enough, I sent the suspension away 20 years ago, and all these little jobs become long processes. You know what I mean? So when I reassembled the vehicle, the prop shaft was too short. So then I made the prop shaft longer.
What?
When I put the body on, I realized, no, this vehicle's way too hard. So the guys made a mistake. They just put another leaf in. They didn't just reset the suspension.
Oh, wow.
So it was rock hard. So now I had to strip out the leaves to get it softer again, to make it drive properly. But now the prop shaft was too long again. I had to shorten the prop shaft again. So, unbelievable, the challenge. But it was good challenges. It got me out of bed during lockdown, and it,
kept you
I was
busy.
even early in the morning, 6 o'clock, I was working.
Yeah.
So it was great.
Yeah, that's cool, because it can be nothing worse than sitting at home, not having a project to work on, while you can't do anything else, Yeah. So when you're test driving it, are you test driving it there in your yard?
We are lucky we live here in Sabie. So obviously, initially when I didn't have the body on yet, I drove around in the yard. But once we had the body on and that, we live on the edge of town here, and we've got a little route down to the river here. So we often take our dogs in the afternoon, and now we put them in the back of the Landy and we take them down to the river for a run. So there are some advantages to living in a little town. And the police turn a blind eye.
Okay.
I think we all know each other so well, so they're not really interested.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That's cool. So what's left to fix on the Landy? Because I saw you. Did you put the roof on the other day?
Yeah, the hardtop is now on, and the last things I have to do now is I need to decide, am I going to put sliding windows in the back? But I decided I don't want to, because those windows invariably start rattling, and so either I put solid glass in, or I think I'm going to do like a aluminium type flap that can fold down, and it becomes a little table on the side of the vehicle. I've got these aspirations of doing a long trip to Malawi or something with this vehicle. So I'm already starting to think in that direction as to how to make it practical for something like that. Yeah.
And I mean, did you have to redo the engine or?
The engine I rebuilt a couple of years ago, 25 years ago. Yeah. I put new big bearings and rings and stuff in.
Okay.
So the engine's sweet. It's lovely. I put in a new water pump, obviously, now. I put some seals, exhaust gaskets, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But I was lucky, didn't have to rebuild. Yeah, and she's running beautifully.
Oh, that's awesome.
Put a Weber carburetor on, that's going well. So, happy days.
Yeah, it is. That's awesome. I'm like a little bit jealous. But
I still need to put some new tires on, but that'll wait. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to spend money on tires now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's cool. So just going back to the bikes, there was a question I wanted to ask that I forgot. I mean, in terms of, like the difference between riding a boxer engine off-road and, riding something like an 800 or 850 or, like a twin like that. Do you think there's any advantage to either one of them?
The boxer motor strength is that torque that it makes right from the bottom. Yeah. So you can see it when we do our training, when we do momentum hill climb, where you got to generate a little power burst. On the 1200, you can just crank the throttle. Yeah. On the 800s, that you have to use the clutch to get that little power burst. So that is the difference. I mean, say, the 1200 power slide through a corner, you just crank the throttle and the arse comes out and it's beautiful. Where even my HP and the older bikes, they didn't do that.
Okay.
I must say, the new BMW, the 850s and the 750s, they've reconfigured that motor. So it's lovely. It's really, really good. it makes the similar type of power. And a while ago, I rode the Triumph 1200 with a 3-cylinder,
Yeah.
and we rode the road. And it's a lovely motor once it starts singing. Once it gets a little bit up, but the bottom end is not there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not making the right power for that. So I always said that motor is not right for off-road use, unless you obviously not into that technical type riding.
Yeah.
Once you're on the open road and the throttle's open, it's lovely.
Yeah. So, and then your HP, you said you got an HP 2, right?
Yeah, I bought a HP. Let me quickly think. Must have bought it in 2017. No, earlier. 2012, 13, something like that. And for a long time, it was my only bike.
Okay.
I've had my HP for a long time. And every now and then, I'm not riding it. They are still nice bikes to ride, but the modern bikes
are far better.
You can't compare.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're much easier and much more power. And so, the HP is an iconic bike.
Because it looks nice.
I definitely don't want to sell it. And I still enjoy riding it. I take it out now and then for a ride. Yeah.
But it's got a small fuel tank as well, hasn't it? So it doesn't have
the HP, it's 14 liters. Yeah. So when you're on an HP, any HP rider can tell you precisely where every petrol station is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you see,
because he's always plotting it for the next ride.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And your new 1250. I mean, how did it compare to, say, like the previous liquid cooled, and say maybe the air cooled like the one that I've got?
Yeah, the previous liquid cooled was already a lovely bike. Okay, the 1250, I think the biggest change is the suspension.
Okay.
They've really put in quality stuff now. And BMW was always a little bit criticized for not competing head-on with the other big brands suspension-wise. Where now those questions are totally answered. It's got an amazing suspension, and the modes work so well. And then next thing, that motor is just so forgiving. The way it doesn't stall, it climbs up rocky climbs. It's, like on the 22, for instance, it becomes a superbike eater in a second, and then next minute you can do a rocky climb.
Yeah.
So it's such an all-round, and that variable timing of these has really made a big difference to that bike. Yeah. A lot of guys say to me, must I buy the 1250? And I say to them, if you can afford it, you definitely must.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a lot of money to step up. Ride your 1200 till it's time to change.
Yeah.
It's not worth just changing.
Yeah, look, when the first liquid cools came out, I was tempted. But then I went and I test rode it, and I was like, I still like my bike,
Yes.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd hang on a bit, but just now they got quite expensive now. My bike's paid off.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, it's got a couple of battle scars on it, so I don't really mind dropping it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
what year model is it?
It's the 2012. It was the last color change before they did the liquid cooled. Yeah. I don't know if you saw it. It's the rally edition, the white with the red frame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're lovely, and it's got the double overhead camo.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the nicest air-cooled motor. They were iconic, those motors.
Yeah. So it's the same engine as the Urban, right? It's the 12.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. But it's funny. I always tell this story, but I had a bit of a problem with mine. Mine had like a bit of a hesitation. So like if I get to, the only way I can explain it is like, you're changing down, you get to the robot, and as you get to the robot, let's say the robot turns green and you open the throttle and it pops and it stalls. And I eventually, before I did the Swazi trip last year, I found a second-hand power commander, and I put the power commander on, and I went and I sent it to get dyno tuned. It's like a new bike. It's like a new bike now.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Because I know for a while they struggled with the whole Euro 4 compliance thing, and that's where a lot of those issues came from. They had to set them that they were compliant, and that affected that they started burning lean, and then they had to reduce the power, and then they put in another mapping, and so it was a bit of an issue. And Joburg altitudes don't make it easier. So I think that's where those struggles came from.
Yeah, because
and obviously they can't just set the bike and ignore the Euro 4 compliance.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because my bike would run very nicely at the coast, just didn't run very
Yes.
nicely on on the Highveld. Yeah, no, it was
So
actually
maybe there's a hint. Move to the coast.
yeah, jeez. So it's funny because all my family live down in Cape Town, so God knows why I'm still in
Okay.
Joburg. No, I'm in Joburg because my kids are here. So yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So and I mean, geez, I love riding in Cape Town. Oh my word, especially the Western
No,
Cape
no.
Garden Route area.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you what, some beautiful
And
roads.
those dirt roads are highways, eh? They're just like, hey?
Yeah, I'd love to. I've been thinking of doing this for a long time now. Is where you ride down to Cape Town, but you take like almost 2 weeks to get there, kind of thing. And
Yes.
you find yourself a nice farm stay place as a central point, and you just go out every day in every other direction that you can find until you've checked out the whole place.
Yeah, me and Jackie did an amazing trip down the West Coast where we did something similar. You know, we just rode till we found a spot, stayed for the night, and then doing all those little coastal towns down the West Coast and getting to know them.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
was really cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that trip that I did when I first got my bike, I learned a very, very hard lesson there, is that don't book your accommodation before you go.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden you enjoying the scenery, you're stopping, you're taking photos, you see a little side dirt road you take, whatever, maybe it goes in the direction you want to go or not. And then all of a sudden you've got you got 300 Ks to do before night. And then so I made that mistake.
And you miss the little gems, I mean. So
absolutely, yeah.
Just book over Easter weekend. That's the only tip I can give.
Yeah, yeah. Ideally, you're going to do this kind of thing when it's not peak time. Where the weather's good, but it's not like the peak holiday season. Yeah, because
we've always been lucky that because we were in the trade, we always took our holidays outside of those peak times. I mean, and it's always lovely those times. Okay, some of the places are closed and some restaurants aren't busy, but that has never bugged us.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And you want to go to those places where it's run by some family that's been there for 20, 30 years kind of thing. And, you feel you're part of the family. So, So what happened to me when I was coming back from Cape Town on that trip, I went up the West Coast and I went up to Springbok and then from Springbok across to Uppington. And one of my tie downs came loose and got caught in the diff and damaged the diff seal. Just before I got to Pofado. So I made it to Uppington. Fortunately, there's a BMW dealership there. So I booked it in, and I had to stay in Uppington for the weekend. And they took me to. They recommended a B&B there, and I went and I stayed there. Geez, and the lady was there. She was like she was bringing me, all this home cooked meal because I was saying, no, I'll go down to the restaurant to get something to eat. She, no.
Yes.
She'll come and give me. She came and brought me some, some of their supper that they have made that night, and on the side of the Orange River, it was. It was like almost like a fortunate incident that I had to get stuck in Uppington for a couple of days, and then when I was walking around, while I was waiting for my bike to be fixed, when I was walking around, I saw all these old cars parked in the suburbs. I would walk down the road, and then I see all these old cars parked in these people's yards there. So I reckon if you're looking for an old Chevy pickup or something like that, that's the place to go.
That's the place to go. Okay, let's keep that in mind. Yeah, we've also come and stayed over and done trips towards Namibia and stuff. Yeah, so it's a little town. And I also love that Kakamas, Kaimus, that whole on the Orange River. Those such amazing places. And Akrabi's obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so really.
So I was supposed to go to Akrabi's, but I had to skip that one because I had to get to Uppington to go.
Okay. Now there's a reason to go back.
Yeah. But that's the nice thing is that there's so many places in South Africa to go and visit. I mean, we've got such beautiful countryside and places, roads and all that kind of stuff, because you always think, I need to go maybe a ride in Europe or ride in New Zealand or wherever. But meanwhile, you've got all the opportunities here in South Africa to go and to ride.
And I always say when you do it on a bike, wherever you stop, there's always someone that wants to chat and have a beer with you. So it really opens up. You get to meet the most amazing people, and the reason is because you're on a bike.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
People arrive in a car, no one's going to go and say, "Do you want to chat?"
Yeah.
When people on a bike, they want to say, "Where did you come from? Where are you going? Where are you staying tonight?" So that's motorcycling just opens those channels.
Yeah, and I mean, like you always meet other motorcyclists as well. I mean, on that trip that I did, I met some guys traveling on a KTM, and we passed one another along the road, and then I think it was Clan William that I was pulling into, and I was stopping to get something to eat, and there they were parked outside the place that I wanted to go and have lunch. I parked my bike there, walked inside there, joined them, sat down, we had lunch together, and off they went on their trip, and I went off on mine, So yeah, there's definitely this camaraderie as well that goes along with it.
Yeah, and it's interesting, you go to Europe and it's the same thing, eh? People just want to chat to each other that are on bikes.
Yeah.
So it's an international thing. It's not just South Africa.
Yeah. So I mean, I chatted to do you know Kinga?
Yes.
Yeah.
Kinga stayed with us a few nights here in Sabie.
Okay.
And then we arranged her some safaris, and we sent her all over. Yeah, so she had a great time when she visited us in the area.
Yeah, and I mean, she was telling me how welcoming people are especially, and she said it's funny, like when you're a female on a motorcycle in Africa, the people, she said, no one gives you any trouble. She says, not even the men give you any trouble, which I found quite interesting.
Definitely. Yeah, that's quite interesting. We were in Lesotho on our trip, and then we also bumped into Kinga at a place called Sebonkong.
Yep.
I don't know if you've ever been there. There's a lovely old hotel there, and they've got an amazing waterfall, one of the tallest waterfalls in Lesotho.
Okay.
And so she was on the trip, and we invited her for dinner, and she entertained our whole group. We had a group of New Zealanders and Australians that night, and she had everybody in awe, telling all her stories. And she's really amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, Thomas, thanks for your time, man. It's been great chatting.
It's been great. Nice chatting.
Yeah, and I can't wait for this lockdown to finish, because then I'm definitely coming your direction.
Yeah, we do a ride and we do a beer.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually want to come for more training. I'd like to try and do some more. I'll start at the bottom again and work my way up to the advanced stuff. Because I don't do enough off-road riding.
Yes.
So it's always good to go and relearn some of those things that you've already forgotten.
Definitely.
Yeah. Cool.
Great.
Thanks, Thomas. Anyway, there you have it. That's the end of another episode. I hope you enjoyed that one, and I hope you'll join us on the next one. Don't forget to rate on Apple Podcasts, subscribe on Spotify, drop me a DM on Instagram or Facebook, and don't forget that every Saturday at 10 o'clock on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, Weekend Crack live with my mates Oleg and Lester. And that, my friends, is the end. Catch you next time.